Hello and a very warm welcome to a brand new episode of World Panorama, the only show that gives you news from across the globe in the most concise, direct and unbiased reports. I'm Sana Khan. Before we get you detailed reports, here's a look at the top stories this week. It's been a big week for scientists in quantum field theory. CERN physicists discover Higgs boson-like particle. What next? Greece meets Troika, admits it's off track on bailout terms, while IMF's chief warns global economy outlook is worrisome. Another turn in US-Pak ties. First NATO truck crosses Pakistan's border after a 7-month closure. And World Panorama takes a look at how the US celebrated 4th of July with spectacular fireworks to mark 236 years of independence. This week, we discuss a development that has caused excitement not just among the scientific community, but also commoners throughout the world who have forever been intrigued by finding answers to some of the most fundamental questions about creation of the universe. In a discovery that throws light on the very fabric of space and time, a new subatomic particle has been found that is consistent with the long sought-after Higgs boson. Researchers using the world's biggest atom smasher at CERN in Switzerland announced they had observed the new particle in collisions in the giant instrument. Is this what we were looking for, the God particle? Or has this experiment given us something new and much more exciting? We'll try and find out more about this with a special guest this week, Dr. Amitabh Pandey. He's a science communicator. Thanks, sir, for joining me here in the studio. Before that, why don't we take a look at this report?
As a layman, I would now say, I think we have it.
Scientists at the CERN Research Center have found a new subatomic particle that could be the Higgs boson, the basic building block of the universe, also known as the God particle. The particle has been the subject of a 45-year hunt to explain how matter attains its mass.
It's a tremendous advance, there's no doubt about it. They've made a very significant discovery.
Although the new subatomic particle looks like the one that is believed to give all matter in the universe size and shape, it is difficult to say whether the new particle is indeed the tiny and elusive Higgs boson.
Well, it isn't an absolutely definite discovery yet, according to the rules. They've certainly discovered a particle which looks similar to the expected Higgs particle, but there's a lot of work to be done to be sure that it has all the right properties.
The Higgs boson was discovered by smashing beams of protons together at close to the speed of light, recreating the conditions as it were a fraction of a second after the Big Bang. The protons were smashed inside the Large Hadron Collider, which is the largest and most complex machine ever made by man. It has a circumference of 27 kilometers, straddling French and Swiss territory.
With that, let me get in Amitabh here. So, there's a lot of speculation about what this newly discovered particle is. Is it the Higgs boson? Is it the Higgs-like boson, as the scientists are calling it? Or it's something entirely new? Now, perhaps the last two discoveries would be much more exciting. What do you have to say?
This is quite elusive. It was quite elusive particle, searching for more than 20 years. It had an expected mass range. So the about 126 giga electron volt. The mass is measured in terms of energy, like an Einstein said, energy and mass is equivalent. So it is about 123 times more massive than about 124 5 times more massive than the proton. So it is almost in the same mass range a particle has been discovered. And the way the signature, because particle not discovered directly, what is it decays into, say 10,000th of a billionth of a second, it decays into other particle like electron-like particle or like light particle like photon. So they are looking at the indirect signature of the photon. So the mass they estimated is falling in the range of expected mass. So it should be a Higgs boson. What the exact properties are further this Large Hadron Collider for 3-4 months. So in that exact properties, more precise measurements will be done now. So it is a expected thing that the scientists were looking at.
Okay, so it's the eureka moment in a sense for the scientists, but then again it opens up many more opportunities, you know, for look-alike alternatives. Physicists have much more to discover with this. They know that they can achieve this and perhaps much more. So the road is open.
Yeah, this is it is said like that is one of the cornerstone of say particle field, like a standard model has been now completed. Now there are a lot of more new things to come up. Like there are a lot of mysteries, all mysteries are not solved. This is not a God particle. This particle didn't create the universe.
I was just coming to that in my next question.
So it is a particle which fulfills the most important requirement. But now the other missing things are still there in the standard model. So they'll be in the further research, like they are looking for some other thing, that will be other research. But in this, the Higgs will be confirmed. It is the Higgs boson of the standard model they are looking for.
Okay, and I'm going to be talking to you more about why it has come to be known as the God particle in just a bit, but why don't you, our viewers, take a look at this report which tells you exactly what is the Higgs boson. 13.7 billion years after it all began, we are about to travel back to the beginning of time. With the help of the largest and most complex scientific experiment ever conducted, CERN scientists, with one aim, to recreate the conditions of the Big Bang. The Higgs boson particle is an elementary particle in the Standard Model, the theory that describes the basic building blocks of the universe. It belongs to a class of particles known as bosons, named after Indian scientist Satyendra Nath Bose. The Higgs boson is a particle that is theoretically the reason why all matter in the universe has mass.
It's a very elusive particle which he predicted because of the fact, one, it is very massive, it's very short in lifetime, and it exists in very high energetic conditions, which is essentially within a second of the formation of that Big Bang which the universe came into being.
Named after Peter Higgs, a British theoretical physicist, the Higgs mechanism is generally accepted as an important ingredient in the Standard Model of particle physics, without which particles would have no mass. Higgs mechanism predicts the existence of the Higgs boson particle, often described as the most sought-after particle in modern physics. The God particle was found after sifting through subatomic debris of more than 1,000 trillion proton collisions inside the Large Hadron Collider.
Or it could be the end of the beginning, where we discover that the universe is more mysterious and more beautiful than we could possibly have imagined.
So with that, Amitabh, it's very exciting for commoners to hear about the God particle, to witness these physicists conducting these huge experiments. So why the God particle? Explain to us.
This is actually a joke went too far. There was a Nobel laureate, Leon Lederman. He wrote a book. He wanted to have title Goddamn Particle.
Goddamn particle.
If universe is the answer, what is the question? So and editor somehow change the title into God particle, and then this becomes a huge, they say, got huge publicity because of that title. But I think it is a very misleading name. No scientist prefer this name. Even Peter Higgs himself disliked this term God particle, because this God is nothing to do with science. The total science works in an entirely different realm about how nature works. This is a particle which, as we discussed, is a very important particle which provides mass to the other particle.
Right.
Okay. The Higgs field, he proposed a Higgs field, and every field have a particle associated with it for any interaction. So the right term, it should be it is a very important, very fundamental particle for the universe, how universe formed, how mass acquired by the other particle. But it has nothing to do with the creation of universe. So the name is exactly misleading. In fact, the hype that was created in media actually divert our attention from the importance of discovery.
Right. So, as you said, it is misleading to call it the God particle because it isn't actually the God particle. Let's just talk a bit about the India connection over here. Satyendranath Bose,
Yeah,
a very important
yeah.
name. So India, in a sense, has been like a historic father as far as this whole experiment is concerned. Tell us a bit more about that.
Now what happens, scientists like to classify things in various order. Like when the particles were started discovering, scientists were discovering particles, like first, like say, electron were discovered. Then they were found that there is a nucleus inside the atom which is positively charged. So there's a positively charged particle called proton. They found there is some missing mass which cannot be filled by only positively charged particle. They found a neutral particle, neutron. Then the proton or neutron itself made up of they are composite particles. They are made up of further small element like quarks. So now the scientists discovered quarks. In fact, there was a time when there was something called particle Jew. There were more than 100 particles were there, and they couldn't fit into one complete picture.
Right.
Now the complete picture which evolved now have about 6 electron-like particles. There are about 6 quarks. And there are 4 particles which are associated with different forces, like gravity is there. So again, that particle not discovered yet.
Right.
So one more discovery left to be there. They're called graviton. There is a strong force, there is a weak force inside the nucleus.
So Mr. Bose was the one
So
who...
Bose, what happened is the particle which carries force, like force of electromagnetism, that is actually the photon, the particle. So photon is have a property which was described by the Bose statistic provided by Satyendranath Bose.
Okay.
So the particle which have that property is a class of particle like photon. Like there is a strong gluon particle which binds the proton together inside the nuclei, or the bind quark inside the proton. Therefore,
Right.
called gluon. So all these particles which have integral spin or zero spin, they are
So
called
in short,
boson. They are
Mr.
called
Bose
boson is a class of particle.
Right.
Boson, not particular particle. So this Higgs have boson-like property.
Okay.
Particles imagined to have spin. The
Right.
spin is
So
an integral
nevertheless,
spin, so it is
India's
a boson.
contribution has been quite significant. That's what I've been
So he provided a
tell.
framework to classify particles in a systematic order. So there is very important contribution in modern physics.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, he didn't get Nobel Prize for that.
Absolutely, and now perhaps posthumously. But on that note, Amitabh, thanks so much for joining me here on this week's show. So for the international physicist community, the work, it seems, has just begun. We'll be keeping a track on how this experiment goes forward, but right now it's time for a very short break. After that, is London safe to host the Olympics? We get you the latest from the London terror scare. Stay tuned. Thanks for staying with us. Europe, it seems, is fighting back. From Greece to Britain to the European Central Bank, developments are coming thick and fast. While Greece has admitted that it had let down its lenders by not delivering on promises it had made, it has also asked for leniency from its top 3 lenders. On the other hand, a rate cut by the ECB and a boost in the quantitative easing budget by the Bank of England is the latest attempt to stimulate the European economy. Here's a consolidated report on all the latest.
Debt-ridden Greece conceded on Thursday it had slipped in some respects in implementing the cuts and reforms demanded by lenders in exchange for saving Athens from bankruptcy, and tried to persuade them to cut the country some slack. Finance Minister Yanis Tournaras made the admission after meeting senior officials from Greece's troika of lenders from the EU, the European Central Bank and the International Monetary Fund, whose inspectors have begun picking through the country's books after weeks of political uncertainty. Meanwhile, central banks in Britain and Europe have wielded monetary instruments to stimulate their economies, with Britain raising the size of its assets purchasing program. This comes 2 weeks after the US Federal Reserve expanded a program lengthening the maturity of bonds it holds, and tacit support for these steps came from millions of miles away from Japan, where the IMF chief is busy trying to drum up morale, which has taken a beating following the global slowdown.
Banking institutions, financial institutions in general, have to concentrate on what is their core business, which is to finance the real economy. They have to be back to supporting, not destabilizing the economy, back to function instead of dysfunction, back to service and not exclusively profit, forgetting about service.
As Britain exercises monetary instruments, Spain and Italy were plunged back into financial turmoil on Thursday after Mario Draghi, head of the European Central Bank, flagged up the renewed weakness in economic growth of the last 3 months.
economic growth in the euro area continues to remain weak, with heightened uncertainty weighing on confidence and sentiment. We have implemented both standard and non-standard monetary policy measures. This combination of measures has supported the transmission of our monetary policy. All our non-standard monetary policy measures are temporary in nature.
While many consider a rate cut as a short-term knee-jerk reaction, it is still a starting point. And the ECB has already shown that it is ready to help out by also reducing its deposit rate to zero. That could encourage banks to lend to each other rather than dumping funds back at the ECB each night.
Terror once again emerged as the bone of contention between India and Pakistan at the conclusion of the two-day Foreign Secretary-level talks. Pakistan denied its involvement in any terror activity but proposed joint probe into the 26/11 Mumbai attack. India made it clear that bringing perpetrators of the attack to justice will be the biggest confidence-building measure that Islamabad could do. Here's a report.
After 2 days of parleys, Foreign Secretary Ranjan Mathai and his Pakistani counterpart Jalil Abbas Jilani agreed that the relationship has to be normalized by narrowing divergences and building convergences. Mathai emphasized that the arrest of alleged LET terrorist Abu Jundal and his ongoing interrogation has added urgency to bringing perpetrators of 26/11 to justice.
That Foreign Secretary Jilani and I discussed all issues that impact peace and security between our two countries, including terrorism. I emphasized that terrorism is the biggest threat to peace and security in the region, and that bringing the guilty to justice in the Mumbai terror attacks would be the biggest confidence-building measure of all.
Jilani, on his part, rejected the role of state agencies in the Mumbai attacks and offered cooperation into the cases related to the Mumbai carnage in which 166 people were killed.
I would very strongly reject any insinuation of any involvement of any state agency in acts of terrorism in India.
In the joint statement issued after the talks, both the sides said the foreign secretaries will meet again in Islamabad on a date to be decided through diplomatic channels to prepare for the meeting of the foreign ministers in September. On the issue of terrorism, the foreign secretaries noted that both countries recognize that terrorism poses a continuing threat to peace and security. They reaffirmed the strong commitment of the two countries to fight and eliminate terrorism in an effective and comprehensive manner so as to eliminate it in all its forms and manifestations. On the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, the statement said the foreign secretaries had a comprehensive exchange of views on the issue of Jammu and Kashmir and agreed to continue discussions in a purposeful and forward-looking manner with the view to finding a peaceful solution by narrowing divergences and building convergences. The two officials discussed peace and security, CBMs, Jammu and Kashmir and promotion of friendly exchanges. Both the countries pitched for a constructive dialogue to promote greater trust and mutual understanding.
And near London, terror police arrested 6 people in dramatic raids, including 3 men at property just 1 mile away from the Olympic Stadium 3 weeks before the opening ceremony. The threat to the UK from international terrorism is currently rated substantial. That means the 3rd highest of the 5 levels. Here's the story.
Less than a month remains before the Olympics kickstart. Fear grips London. Just a few kilometers from the Olympic site, British police arrested 6 people suspected of preparing terrorist attacks on Thursday. Neighbours described how the police swooped upon the house in Newham in the early hours.
Looked out the window and I could just see the police entering the actual building. They actually literally blew that door off, ripped it off, and actually to get into the building, they had police over around the back and police around the front, and I was a bit wary of what's going on.
I heard a big bang. Thought it was thunder at first because it woke me up my sleep. Then I heard the bang again, so I knew it wasn't thunder. Then it was followed by a round of shots from a smaller gun, so I knew there was some sort of activity going on outside. It was really, really loud.
Police said the operation was not linked to the Olympics, which started in London on July 27th, but was part of a planned intelligence-led operation.
In a separate incident, police closed off part of the M6, a major highway near the city of Birmingham, around 200 kilometers north of the British capital. It was believed the man on board the megabus poured liquid into a smoking bag. In the wake of these two incidents, Britain's terror level is labelled substantial, a notch below severe. A substantial threat level indicates that an attack is a strong possibility.
Time for a very short break. Stay tuned for some entertainment buzz. We bring you the first look of Tom Cruise's latest flick, Jack Reacher. Thanks for staying with us. Time now to take a look at some of the other international news in a quick wrap.
A pair of trucks carrying NATO supplies crossed into Afghanistan on Thursday in more than 7 months that Pakistan has allowed Western nations to use its roads to supply troops in Afghanistan. Hundreds of tankers remained parked at terminal in Karachi where drivers were busy checking them for road fitness. The resumption of NATO transit into Afghanistan came 2 days after US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, yielding to Pakistani demands, told Pakistani Foreign Minister Hina Rabbani Khan the United States was sorry for the deaths last November. Cuba's Raul Castro arrived in China for a 4-day visit, his first since taking over the leadership from his brother Fidel in 2008. Castro met Chinese President Hu Jintao in Beijing and signed various cooperation deals. China is Cuba's second largest trading partner after Venezuela. China and Cuba are also close allies. A new round of Iran nuclear talks concluded on Tuesday after 15 hours of closed-door meeting in Istanbul, Turkey, with no substantial progress achieved. The expert-level talks between Iran and the P5+1, Britain, China, France, Russia, the United States plus Germany, aimed at exploring common ground for full-fledged talks about previous meetings, failed to make any breakthrough. Meanwhile, Iran announced that it is prepared to launch missiles at US bases throughout the Gulf within minutes of any attack on the Islamic Republic. The violence in Syria has reached unprecedented levels, the head of the country's UN observer mission, Robert Mood, said on Thursday, insisting there must be a ceasefire in order for his teams to resume their work. About 300 UN monitors were sent to Syria to provide an unbiased look at the violence, but they have been confined to their hotels since June 15 because of the bloodshed.
And now brace yourself for the latest sporting action in our next report. Here's all the news from the world of sports.
Britain's Jamie Donaldson held his nerve to win the Irish Open on Sunday and claim his first European Tour victory. Battling against the wind and rain at Royal Portrush, the overnight leader shot a final round of 6 under 66 to win by 4 shots, seeing off Anthony Wall, Fabrizio Zanotti and Rafael Cabrera Bello, who finished in joint second place. Bayern Munich's squad went onto the training ground on 3rd July after a 41-day break since the end of last season. New signings Dante, a defender from Brazil, were paraded for the media and fans at the club's training ground. After 2 seasons in which Borussia Dortmund won the Bundesliga, Bayern are desperate to get back on the top after the last league title in 2009-2010. Frank Camas became only the second French skipper to win the Volvo Ocean race when he guided his Krupma team into a rapturous welcome from more than 1 lakh people in the Galway on 3rd July. The 8-month race was decided when Camas's Krupma 4-boat finished second behind Camper in the 9th and final leg, a short 150-mile sprint from Lorient in France. A sea of red and yellow filled the streets of Madrid on 2nd July as the Spanish team returned home for a lap of the capital and a party with thousands of fans near the central fountain of Cibeles. A 4-0 drubbing of Italy saw Spain retain the European Championship title. After they handed a La Roja red shirt to the Spanish King John Carlos I at a royal welcome ceremony, the triumphant team embarked on a victory parade which culminated in mass celebrations at the Cibeles Square, the traditional location for Real Madrid festivities.
Let's take a look now at the very latest news from the world of movies and lifestyle. Here's our entertainment wrap. The official trailer for Tom Cruise's latest action movie, Jack Reacher, was released on Wednesday, with the movie due in theatres in late December. The film tells the story of ex-military investigator who's called in to help investigate a murder case after the suspect tells police, "Get Jack Reacher" during interrogation. Actress Naomi Watts arrived in Croatia on Tuesday to shoot principal filming for the upcoming feature titled Diana, in which she plays Britain's late Princess Diana. The film, directed by the Academy Award-nominated German director of Downfall, Oliver Hirschbergel, deals with the last 2 years of Diana's life before her tragic death in a car accident in 1997. Filming locations over the 9-week shoot include additionally Mozambique, various locations in and around London and south of England. The movie is set for release next year in France on 20th February. On Wednesday, the opening day of Berlin Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week, Marc Jacobs, the designer who's famous for his tattoos and for sporting skirts at events, came to Berlin to present the award to one of the 5 finalists, the latest designer for tomorrow. This time the title went to Leandro Cano from Spain. Jacobs has been involved with the project since 2011. It involves future designers presenting their collections and being able to use the Fashion Week forum and the big name behind it as a stepping stone for the career. The who's who of the fashion world came out to toss flowers at the feet of Christian Dior's new creative director on Monday, applauding the fresh and modern approach Raf Simons has brought to the feminine extravagance of a grand French atelier. The show saw the likes of French actress Marion Cotillard wearing a navy floral dress with a short full skirt and black-clad Sharon Stone in the front row. Rival designers Albert Elbaz of Lanvin, Louis Vuitton's Marc Jacob, Donatella Versace and even Pierre Cardin were also on hand for Simon's debut in a grand Parisian mansion festooned with flowers. That's all we have for you in this edition of World Panorama. I'll be back next week, same time, with more world news. As we wrap up, take a look at these stunning visuals from all across America, where thousands of citizens erupted in celebration to mark the 236th Independence Day. Goodbye and thanks for watching.